Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled, Free Roof Because My Insurance Guy Wants to Play Games. Some 5 or 6 years ago, my wife's grandmother passed and left us her home in her will. The house was rather large, but had been built some time in the 1960s and needed updating. We decided to basically gut the home and do a full remodel. First thing was to talk to my insurance guy and see what I needed to do with the insurance. He comes out and explains that I need to do a fire policy, which basically will replace the structure in the event of a major catastrophe. Cool, insurance in place. I start remodeling. Fast forward 7 or 8 months and I am done, and so bone tired and mad at the world that my reflection in the mirror tried to avoid me. I was working a rotating shift, days, evenings, midnights, and spending every waking moment working on this house. 5 hours a day, night was the most sleep I was getting. I would snap at the wind for blowing. I was so strung out. Cue the insurance guy and his antics. While I was sleeping after working midnight shift, my wife has insurance guy come to look at the house and change the policy back to full coverage. When I wake up for my next shift, she informs me that we have to put a new roof on before he can change the policy. I almost came unglued. I had ripped the ceilings out of this house, so if there had been a roof leak, I am pretty sure I would have found it. Luckily this was Friday evening, so I had the entire weekend to calm down and plot my next move. I called first thing Monday morning and set up an appointment for 8 a.m. Tuesday at the house, and explained to him I was on midnights and to please make sure he was there by 8 a.m. No particular reason, I just hoped it would discomfort him having to be somewhere else that early in the morning, a dick move mostly. Tuesday morning rolls around, and he shows up with his boss. At first this threw me off, but I figure what the hell, 2 birds, 1 rock and stuff. Me, IG, how's it going? IG, pretty good, how are you? Me, tired. How about you show me exactly what is wrong with this roof so we can get going? IG, sure thing, step right over here. You see that shingle? Me, yeah. IG, see how bad a shape it's in? Me, sure do. Thinking to myself, hell no, what the duck are you looking at? IG, and over there see that place? Me, yup, got a bad spot or 2 there also. IG, this roof has taken some serious storm damage, it is in rough shape. We proceed all the way around the house with him pointing at random spots, as far as I could tell, and saying things like that shingle is shot. Those 2. Yeah, and right here. The whole time I just did like a chicken pecking and affirmed him with yup. You're right, all the while his boss is saying nothing. After he is finished pointing out all of these bad places. IG, so see, you will have to replace that roof before we can cover it. Me, you're right, I had been so busy on the inside I hadn't paid much attention. So, can you file the claim for me, or do I need to go talk to one of the ladies down at the office? IG, claim. What do you mean a claim? Me, well, best I can figure it was those bad storms back in April that did all this damage, and y'all were covering it through my GMIL's policy, so I reckon y'all would be who I supposed to talk to, right? I like turning the backwards country accent up to 11 when dealing with people who think they are smarter than me, adds flavor to the humble pie for them. IG, well now, hold on. Me, no, you're 100% right. It's took some serious storm damage, and we ain't had none since that bout back in April. Now, I put the fire policy on in July, so any damage done woulda fell back on the old policy. IG. Standing there sucking air like it's gonna run out. IG's boss, he's right. And since they have a year to file that claim, we will have to do it. Get the paperwork started and let me know if you need help. I am no roof expert, the roof could have been shot all to hell for all I know. It looked good, and didn't leak. After I explained to the adjuster what the whole deal was about, he found enough other stuff wrong so that I wasn't out 1 nickel on an entire new roof. TLDR, insurance guy decided to be a jackwagon for some reason, and I got a free roof out of the deal. Edit, a few points to help clear things up some. My wife was executor of the estate, and had a POA for the deceased. I referenced the storms in April because that year there were multiple bad hail storms that came through. Car dealerships lost entire inventories from these storms. It was an insurance nightmare all year long, which was why nothing was really questioned. The rest of that year was fairly calm weather-wise, so it was most likely the event that destroyed the roof. The roof was about 5 years old, give or take. Wear and tear wasn't a concern, and the insurance company had held the policy on the house since forever and were familiar with it. IG was wanting me to pay for the roof out of my pocket. If this had been pointed out in July when I had the policy changed originally, it would not have irritated me as much. After spending the entire summer and fall working on the house and him popping up with "oh yeah, by the way," yes, it rubbed me the wrong way. I am a hick, bumpkin, and some of the other names mentioned. I love that people automatically shave 30 points off of my IQ for talking the way I do. Insert jokes about my now negative IQ here, please. It gives me a distinct advantage when someone does this. Yes, I play it up for my own amusement benefit. It is no different than a woman using her looks, a policeman using his badge, or any of the other advantages people use daily. I do not type in my southern accent all the time because it isn't easy. It's almost like making a language up as you go, and if it is that hard for me to type, I can only imagine what someone who is unfamiliar with the vernacular would go through reading it. I would imagine there would be migraines and brain scans involved before they got to the end of the post. The next story is titled, "I Need to Shut Up and Just Do My Job?" Alright. I'm a custodian at a local school board. Our cleaning section is broke down into square footage and how long it takes to clean it. Kinda rooms are 25.8 minutes, regular classrooms are 12.3, portables 19.8, set of washrooms 25.6, so on. This kindergarten classroom had glitter everywhere and the kids absolutely destroyed the room on a regular basis. I put up with it for the whole month of September and part of this month. I finally mentioned to the principal that it's taking me longer than normal to clean the room, as glitter takes months to get rid of and I'm short on other rooms. She said, "You're a custodian, just do your damn job." Oh, okay, my apologies, no problem. I put my phone by the door recording me cleaning the room. At the 25.8 minute mark, that would be 25 minutes, 50 seconds, my alarm went off. I dropped everything, grabbed my phone, turned the light off and locked the door. I didn't have time for the kinda washroom, vac the carpets or take the garbage out. Oh well. I got called in for answers the next morning. I stated my case, my supervisor was called, and I called my union. I am in the right, however I should have consulted the union before. Oh well. They are looking at increasing supervision now. The next story is titled, "How About a Good Teacher for a Change?" Art teacher turns the tables on students with MC after a 2-month wind-up. Setting, elementary school. Me, 4th grade or so. Our class had been complaining about our projects in art. The art teacher was going over painting and drawing and we were getting bored and begging to do something else. Okay, he says, we'll do some other stuff. We had 2 months of pottery, carving sculptures out of bars of soap, all sorts of fun stuff. While we'd work on our projects, the teacher always told us stories. Some true, some not, but his favorite kind were ghost stories. Eventually he figured the stories about ghosts in the school were the scariest. Pretty soon he started telling made-up stories about the ghost that lived in the school. Over the course of the weeks, while we shaped our pottery and did our carving, the stories grew to include sightings of the ghost in the school's basement. This basement was really a cellar. Perfectly safe, but the floor was usually a bit damp, it was dusty and dingy, etc. We only ever went there for tornado drills. Eventually he started telling us how he saw the ghost down there. Then how the ghost was even there during the day. All in a way designed to intrigue, and perhaps scare, 4th graders. Pretty soon my classmates were demanding to go down to the basement and see the ghost. He'd say, "No, it's too scary." That made people more demanding. Finally he said, "Do you want to see a ghost in the basement?" "Yeah." "Are you sure?" "Yes. It's pretty scary. Let us see. You'll scream." "No, we won't." Okay, have it your way. But don't say I didn't warn you." The boys in class were all bragging about how they weren't scared. The girls were all huddled with their friends. Finally the day arrived. Now, this is going to be scary. It's okay to scream, but don't try to run. I don't want anyone to fall down there, okay? Nervous laughs and nods from the class. Does anybody want to stay in the classroom instead of going down? No raised hands, but some apprehensive looks. We all went down to the basement. All was normal. Then the teacher suddenly switched off the lights. And that was when we saw a ghost, shimmering in the distance, with its eerily human-like face peering at us. There were screams, from both boys and girls. It was loud. Then he switched the light back on and we heard the teacher laughing. Loudly. After some badgering, he pointed to the large white towel hanging from a pipe at the far end of the basement, gently waving in the breeze. "Is there where you saw the ghost?" Why yes." "Was it glowing?" Why yes." "Did you know that you can buy paint that glows in the dark?" Cue the predictable responses from the fourth graders, and demands for him to show us how he did it and let us try. It didn't dawn on me until yesterday, when I told this story to my kids a couple of decades after it happened, that this whole thing was a 2-month wind-up on the teacher's part. Because after we saw the ghost, of course we demanded to know how he did it. We demanded to try the glow-in-the-dark paint ourselves, and did. We got a lesson on using paint you can't see very well, similar to glaze. We learned about unusual mediums, including cotton towels. We then went back to other painting-type items in art with excitement and demands to the teacher to try all sorts of kinds of paint and painting. Which was probably his plan all along. I'm sure he covered everything in his lesson plan that year, just slightly out of order, and with much more enthusiastic kids. We were had, and good. The next story is titled, "Try to be more like the other tellers." I worked as a bank teller. The other tellers were all female. Our sales and service manager expected us to greet customers warmly the second they entered. From across the bank. "Hello there. Hi. Welcome to US Bank." It was even turned into a competition when he noticed tellers greeting customers. He gave them a point on his tally. My greeting strategy was to wait for initial eye contact after they entered the building and began approaching my window, then say, "Hello," in a friendly way, and give a polite little head nod and smile. This was apparently unsatisfactory. I was talked to because I wasn't bubbly enough. It was pointed out to me how well the other tellers were greeting people walking in, how many points they all had accumulated, and I was told I needed to be more like my female co-workers. This sounded great in theory, but I am a 6 feet 4 inches 290 pounds male, and I knew it would be easy to show them the error of their ways. The next person entering the bank received a bellowing sing-songy "HIIIITHEREEEE. Welcome to US BANKKK" from 60 feet away, with a dozen people in between. To say it startled the crap out of everyone in the bank would be an understatement. I was informed my polite "hello" and nod would be fine going forward. The next story is titled, "Must buy breakfast for the team if you are late." Little background here. I work with a large multi-billion corporation in logistics where we are largely commission-based doing sales. Everyone here is in control over their own clients and book of business. We have managers, but they aren't there to run your book or micromanage, they are there to help motivate you and find solutions to things you may have not run into yet. If I don't come in one day or I'm late, it doesn't hurt anyone but myself, so I work as much as I possibly can. Being a little late shouldn't be a big deal, but it got to the point a large chunk of the office was routinely showing up 10 to 15 minutes after start. I agree being late shouldn't be a habit, but they are only hurting themselves. If they don't hit numbers, they will just get fired. Living in a central state and having mainly East Coast clients means I'm in the office about an hour before most people anyway. Well, my team manager enacted a rule where if you are more than 10 minutes late, you have to bring breakfast for the team. My team is 16 people. So everyone showed up on time last week. Then Thursday rolls around and I called him to explain how my dog is puking and I will be 30 minutes to an hour late. He just replies via text, "I better bring breakfast for everyone." Even though I am historically there well before anyone, I was to become his first subject and example. I called to say no, I cannot do that. Christmas is coming up and I have travel plans I need the money for. Well, he pushes back and says to bring it anyway. Now I'm fairly pissed as my team originally thought the rule was a joke and in no way enforceable. So an idea forms in my mind, I was not going to take this. I call up Einstein Bros and order 16 double egg and bacon sandwiches and a 16 large orange juices. When I make it in about an hour late, the team loves the gesture and my manager doesn't say a word as he grabs his OJ and sandwich. Now here's where the fun comes in. Our expense reports were due the next day in order to receive it by the following paycheck. I expense the full approximately $180 and submit it without saying a word to him. The branch manager called me in the next morning. We're on extremely good terms, very chill guy, and asks what the expense is for. When I explain team breakfast and the rule, and show him the texts from my manager, he gets red in the face and tells me okay, no problem, it will get paid and to be on my way. Not 5 minutes later my manager gets a call and everyone could immediately see on his face him getting yelled at. He goes into the branch manager's office and proceeds to get a long talking to about what he can and cannot enforce on employees. Looking extremely defeated, he sat down and didn't say a word the rest of the day. He had to send out an email to the team recalling the rule about breakfast and apologizing if he put undue pressure on us and that he just wants us to succeed, and being late is not the way to do so. The next week, Monday morning, I brought in breakfast for the team again, 12 donuts for about $14. The next story is titled, IKEA Delivery Man vs My Two-Story House. My husband and I bought our first home and I got my dream of kitting it out in IKEA furniture. Some yearn for bigger things in life. This was my middle-class dream. We live far away, 2.5 hours drive from IKEA, and had ordered quite a bit of kit, so we splurged on delivery. Delivery day arrives and the truck rolls up to our house. Now we have a 2-story house and had ordered 2 wardrobes, a bed, mattress, armoire for upstairs and 6 bookcases with doors, a large lounge chair, 12 wall cabinets and a large TV cabinet for downstairs. It was a lot of flat pack. Delivery man, where would you like the boxes? Me, I need some upstairs and some downstairs please. I can tell you which is which when I see the boxes come in. I know what's what because I'd already seen them at the IKEA when we bought them before delivery. Delivery man, can't do that, we only deliver them to one room. Me, then I'll have them all upstairs please. Needless to say, delivery man quickly changed his mind. The next story is titled, Want to be a selfish idiot? Enjoy your orange hair. I'm a hairstylist. Last Wednesday, between clients, I decided to run to the gas station to get an energy drink and was hit by a car coming out of the parking lot. My own car was totaled, the cops came, both cars were towed from the scene. I texted my next client, apologizing and telling her that due to a serious accident, I would need to reschedule her appointment. She said she needed her hair done before the 4th of July. I was standing in the street, looking at my car in pieces, on the phone with insurance, fielding questions from the cops, and still texted the salon owner asking if anyone could take my client today. The owner said she'd figure it out, and would make sure my client could still be seen. I passed this info on to the client, who said she only wanted me to do it, and needed to get in ASAP. So in the melee, I'm still worried about this client, who is a bad client, by the way, and constantly complains about her hair, demands free redos, and only pays about 70% of the typical cost of her services because she managed to manipulate me into the price point when I was a newer stylist. I see in my schedule that I have absolutely no room to fit her in before the 4th, so I walk back to the salon, after my car was towed away, and just take her anyway. Once I get in, she doesn't ask if I'm okay, doesn't thank me for taking her anyway, but instead launches into a 3-hour-long brag about all the guys who are super into her and how she's dating a business mogul from Newport. The service goes as usual. I finish her hair 3 hours later, and am about to take her cape off and send her on her way when suddenly, she has a problem with the color. She says it's too ashy. It's the exact same formula and color I've done on her for years, but today, it's wrong for some reason. Trying to remain cheerful and professional, I tell her that I'll put a new toner on her, no problem. At this point, my grandma is on my way with my daughter to pick me up. I text my grandma saying I'll be a little later. I turn the client again, and blow dry her for a second time. The client insists that the color is still too ashy. I explain that the second toner I used is the most golden toner that exists, and there's nothing less ash that I could put on her, except for an opaque, sort of gold pigment. She's clearly just being a sadistic idiot. At this point, my grandma comes into the salon and asks if I'm ready to go. My client is looking at her hair and says, "You need to do something else. I can't leave like this." So my grandma goes back to wait in the car. I decide to use a very, very gold color and tone it again for the 3rd time. She comes back to the chair and her hair is noticeably less ashy. Because it's practically orange. "I hate this," says the client. "I'm going to dinner with the guy from Newport tonight. I liked it better the first time. You need to do something else. Just do it like you did the first time. I've done your hair 3 separate times at this point," I say, packing my stuff up. As you know, my grandma and daughter have been outside waiting for me. Unfortunately, there's nothing else I can do, since now there's layers of toner on there and a fourth layer will only make it worse. I hope you have a great week. I took her payment, which she scoffed and forcefully handed to me, and I left. It was maybe not my most professional moment, but I'd been looking for an escape from that client for years, and it was worth it. The next story is titled, My Mum's Youngest Brother Demands I Call Him Uncle. My mum's youngest brother was born 15 years before me and as such always had this weird thing that I show almost reverence to the fact he is my elder. He doesn't do this to my brother or my cousins, just me. When I hit 16 I went to a technical college in the UK to do my A-levels and my uncle went back to learn to be an electrician. We would pass now and then when our classes had breaks and normally just nod in acknowledgement. One day after class 1 went into the town centre about 200 meters down the road and ran into my Uncle William shopping. I said hi to him to get his attention. We had our usual chat about Jane as the only real thing we share in common, then said our goodbyes and left. Either 20 minutes it took to get home. My dear Uncle William had called my mother and ranted about how I called him Will over and over and how I should call him Uncle William. I will point out neither my brother or I have called any of my aunts or uncles Aunt X or Uncle Y since we were about 8 or 9 years old and none of them complained. Mum told him to not make a big deal out of it but would speak to me about it. Later we had a laugh, but for the sake of keeping the peace just say it to shut him up from whining. Shame my dear uncle didn't think this one through. He didn't like his classmates to know how old he was, and the fact I teased him that he was in class of people I went to school with drove him mad, and to complain to Mum that I should never mention his age, of fact he didn't have, and GCSEs etc. Being the caring and loving nephew, I did of course shout, "Hey Uncle William," any and every chance first got when I saw him at college. After the third time he called Mum, who just repeated that he should show respect, and to lie in his bed. I admit I probably went out the way to ensure that on breaks from class we would go to where his class was having a coffee to go chat and say hello to my Uncle William and if he could give Grandma a message when he got home etc. I think it lasted no more than 3 weeks before my uncle had gone from calling Mum to demand I always call him Uncle William, to only when away from classmates. Then, not at college, swiftly adding, not in town either. Each demand met with my mother replying it's either all the time or none of the time, you can't pick and choose. I love my mum, to eventually asking me to just calling him Will. This was because I spent a day calling him Uncle Big Willie for the afternoon and playing Will Smith at him cause I was 16 and a dick. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comment.